All right, we are live on my Facebook profile. Welcome everyone to another edition of the Profitable Christian Business Podcast. I am so pleased to have my new friend, Shena White, with me today. Sheena is incredible, and you're going to learn a lot about her. But Sheena, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Shena White, and my company is Your Pocket CFO. So you guys can't tell, but I'm really short, and so when I went into fractional CFO work, I decided to make a joke about it because I'm so tiny I can fit in your pocket. Uh,
Mm.
but I help primarily construction companies to figure out their finances, to make more money, and to scale their business from a place of profitability.
Well, that is awesome. I'm sure a lot of construction companies could use that service. So, if you're watching this, we're going to get into how amazing Sheena is in a minute. But if you're watching this, we'll reveal all of that. And if you're a construction business owner that could use a pocket CFO to kind of help get your finances in line, we're going to provide all those links to how that you can get in contact with her as well. So, let's kind of dive in. I like to start every podcast with just some casual getting to know you questions so that the audience can kind of get to know you. Not just we're going to dive deep into faith, we're going to try to dive deep into business, but I like to have fun at the beginning. So let's talk about the Bronco logo behind you. That's the first thing. So, are you in Denver? Two questions. Are you in
Yes.
Denver, and how long have you been a Broncos fan?
So, yes, I'm in Denver. And I was transformed into a Broncos fan, um, like sort of kind of about 6 years ago, but then full on 3 years ago. And now I'm a season ticket holder
Mm.
and I go to a lot of games. I love football. I'm from Seattle, so I used to be a
Mm.
Seahawks fan. So when I first moved to Denver, there was a Super Bowl that was Denver against Seattle. And I lost all my friends that day because I was, like, running around my house, yelling, "Caw, caw," and waving my arms every time the Seahawks
Mm.
scored. So back then, I was still a Seahawks fan, but now I've been fully transformed because 'cause I've just lived in Denver so long, and I love the Broncos.
So I'm not a Broncos fan per se, but I
Mhm.
was when Peyton Manning was there.
Okay.
Because I'm a Peyton Manning fan. I followed him
Okay.
when he was in Indianapolis, and then I was
Mhm.
no longer an Indianapolis fan when he left. Because I'm a player fan.
Yeah.
A lot of times I like to follow the players wherever they go. But Peyton brought the Broncos a Super Bowl, so that was awesome. It was so that was that the same year that you moved there? Was the Broncos win?
So when I first moved here, I don't remember, but
Mm.
when the Broncos played the Seahawks won.
Oh, that's right. So yeah, I that's out of my memory. um, so we'll get off of football here in a second. I like football.
Yeah.
The Seahawks, Russell
Yes.
Wilson went
Yeah.
from the Seahawks to
I
Denver,
know.
and now he's gone. So,
Yeah.
just what are your thoughts about? Were you a Russell Wilson fan?
I was a huge I mean, Russ got the Seahawks their first Super Bowl, so I was a total Russ fan. I was super excited when he came, and then it was I mean, okay, I'm not really gonna 100% blame him
Mhm,
because, Hackett was
mhm,
the worst ever,
mhm.
like, just, awful, really awful. I mean, even just as a leader, like, you saw him in press conferences. So one time he was like, "Well, somebody's gotta win." Are you kidding me? Someone's gotta win? Like,
Like it doesn't matter.
no, I wanted him like, that minute he said that, I was like, "Get out of here. Like, go
Yeah.
away. You need to be he needed to be fired that second of that day, I would have fired him. Bye-bye now." So he was the worst. But then also, I don't know, Russ just I feel like he was trying to become someone he wasn't, if that makes sense.
Mm,
In Seattle, he was truly himself, and I think that's why he excelled and they built everything around him. Here, he was trying to become Drew Brees, and
mm.
that's why he actually wanted Sean Payton to come here, and that obviously went the way it did, and now he's gone because he wanted to become Drew Brees, and so I think you can learn a lot from that to be yourself because the when he was himself and when he was truly being who he is, he was a winner. He was successful. And when he was trying to be someone else, it went super south and it's now he's wherever and doing the thing.
We could get into a lot of business analogies with this,
I
about
do
the
it every
leadership.
Tuesday.
About the leadership, the players are so good, but it still requires the leadership and the right systems
Mhm.
for
Yep.
them to flourish
Yeah.
in their given abilities. So much could be done. The right leader in a business situation to for the team members to
Mhm.
flourish.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
But we might come circle back to that. We'll find out. But let's keep it light for a minute. So when you were a kid, I probably wasn't a
Mhm.
football player, but what did you want to be when you grew up?
So, and I didn't even like football back then, but I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a physician since I was like a
Hmm.
little child. Like I didn't play with my baby dolls as children, as my children. I played with them as patients, and I
Mm,
had like little files on all of them and their
mm,
charts because I was a nerd even back then. Um, yeah, and then I actually have a biochemistry degree and a degree in medical anthropology and global health. So I was pre-med, I was going to go to medical school. And then after I finally graduated college, I was like, I don't want to go to school anymore. I'm kind of over it.
oh yeah.
And so I decided to take a break, but now it's been 15 years. So I think that ship has sailed.
And you found what you really were supposed to be doing the whole time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So let's talk about your bucket list.
Mhm.
Everybody usually has one. What's one thing on your bucket list that you're determined to check off soon?
Soon. Ooh. So I want to visit every single 3 Michelin star restaurant in the US.
Mm,
So I've been to one of them.
mm,
There's, I think, 14 or 15 right now. Um, and so I'm getting married next year. So for our honeymoon, we're going to go to all the ones in
mm.
California. And then I'm turning 40 next month. Ooh. And I was going to go to all the ones in New York for my 40th birthday, but now because of some stuff that's happened, I don't know if I'll be able to. But soon I'm going to still take that trip. It'll just be a late 40th birthday extravaganza.
So you would say you're a foodie.
I am an Epicurean to the utmost. I
Mm.
am beyond a foodie. I know all the mother sauces, and I love to cook, and I'm obsessed with Top Chef and all that stuff.
Nice. Have you ever been to Charleston, South Carolina?
Um, I've been through, but not really in. I wouldn't call it a been to.
I've lived there. I don't live there now, but I lived there
Mhm.
for over 10 years.
Okay.
That is one of the best culinary um, cities in the country, in my opinion. I know there's bigger cities, but um, there are some really, really great restaurants. So if you love food, you would love visiting that city, and the beach is there.
Okay.
So
You know, it's kind of frustrating. I was supposed to go there in June, and then I didn't get to go, and so but I will. I love food, and I went to New Orleans, a couple Christmases ago. I went for a week before Christmas, and we just ate all the food, and so I got to go to Commander's Palace,
mm,
the Fount of Emerald,
mhm.
and oh, it was amazing. If you ever go to New Orleans, people will tell you it's not worth it. They're lying. It's totally worth it. Go there.
It depends on what you do in New Orleans. I think it depends
No,
on your
I mean
agenda.
Commander's Palace specifically.
Oh, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah,
Other people are like, it's too expensive. It's not worth it. I was like, whatever. I'm gonna go anyways. It's totally worth it. It was awesome.
it's all about perspective. If you love food, it's worth it, right?
Yeah. It was so
It
good.
awesome, awesome. I will have to check that out. I've been to New
Yeah.
Orleans, but I have not been there. So next question: what's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning?
Drink coffee.
Right answer. That's the only correct answer. No.
I'm not alive until I've had my coffee out
There
of
you
my
go.
mouth.
Awesome, awesome. So we do a fill in the blank question on every episode of the Profit Christian Business podcast, and
Mhm.
I always love hearing the guest answer. Your question is fill in the blank is faith related. So my faith has taught me that in business, blank.
Um, be real no matter
Mm,
what. Like, even if it's tough, you have to be honest with people. And I talk about finance all the time. So sometimes it gets like extra tough. You have to you have to be honest with everyone and trust your gut. Like I believe that your gut actually comes from the Holy Spirit.
mm.
So that can be kind of a barometer. And so I always say I hate to be right, but sometimes like I'll have feelings about things or stuff will happen. And I'm like, I don't know about this. And I'll have clients and they'll continue. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know about this. And most all the time, unfortunately, I end up being right in those cases. Now, sometimes it's like good stuff. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then I end up
Yeah.
being right. It's awesome. sometimes I'm like, let's hedge here. And like I'm actually going through some of that with a client right now, like where we hedged and this opportunity kind of fell apart and we had hedged really nicely, so we're gonna be okay. But if we hadn't, it would be bad news bears today. But it's not because they had
Nice.
me.
Yeah, I imagine you have to have some tough conversations sometimes. And I just the demeanor of many construction owners, business owners, I can just imagine is like it's always my way. I've always done it this way. I'm very. There's a lot of ego sometimes involved.
Like,
So
yeah, but I think that honestly, most of the time, and I'm kind of when I call it an interview when I'm like talking to a potential client. It's just to get to know them, right? So I had this one guy, he was like, "Is this how all of your first meetings go?" Because we were just chatting, and I'm like, "Well, yeah." He's like, "Oh, well, it doesn't seem very professional." I'm like, "We're gonna be talking about your money, dude. So you have to like me as a human, but also
mhm.
I have to like you as a human. And so this is an interview both ways. I'm like, and if we can't just chat and be humans with each other, then it's not gonna work."
Yeah, that's business in general, right? The whole build, know, like, and trust. You'll have that is the secret ingredient of any long term client relationships. If you can build
Mhm.
that know, like, and trust, and um, be authentic with people, right, and be able to have those hard conversations if you need to, like
Mhm.
that's super powerful.
Well, and I have to trust that someone's going to actually listen to what I have to say and implement and all those things because I don't want anyone wasting their money by just hearing me blab because that's not fun. It sucks for me. It sucks for them. It's not fun for anybody. So I just now cut it off before it even begins.
Yeah, so that's a gold nugget for any of the coaches out there, especially if you're a beginning coach too. Is like just don't take on any client.
Ugh, it's not worth it.
Right, because it's gonna end up dragging you down in the long run. Take on the clients that you know are going to implement and act on what you teach them. It's gonna be
Mhm.
better for them, it's gonna be better for you. So do your due diligence in the beginning,
Yeah.
building that relationship and making that connection. Don't just here, give me some money. Let's go. It's not usually like that if you want if you want to have a winning relationship in
Oh,
business.
yeah.
So
Well, like that one potential client I was talking about, like I didn't go further because he was kind of not very kind and kind of rude, and he was acting like he knew more than me. Like from, I'm like, dude, you're calling me for help, like not the other way around. Like, but cool, whatever. If you got it all handled, then you handle it. Then you don't need me. Bye.
yeah, yeah. Nice, nice.
Yeah.
So now I want to get into your story. This
Okay.
is one of my favorite parts of the whole interview. I want you to, if you have some faith elements in your story, share those, how your faith has guided your business journey, and start wherever you want to and kind of get us up to speed to where you are now.
Okay. So going back a little far, but not crazy far, not like elementary school far. But, many moons ago, I owned a concrete repair, coating, and polishing company with my now ex-husband, and, about 3 years into that business, we were surviving, but I wouldn't call it thriving because we weren't very profitable, and then we found out that our accountant had embezzled all of our tax money. Yes, that is the correct face. So every dollar that we thought we'd pay the IRS, mostly our payroll taxes, which is super bad because you cannot discharge those in bankruptcy. It follows you. It's
Mhm,
considered a trust tax.
mhm,
Like that's the stuff that if you don't pay, you get thrown in prison for. I mean, for real, for real. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Um, and at the time, he was a well-known accountant. He was well respected. He didn't just steal my money. It was 120 other companies in the state. It was really, really bad. Then I didn't trust anyone, right? Because this had happened and I didn't trust anyone. And I was like, okay, well, I'm a smart girl. I mean, I have a couple degrees. I can figure this out. So that's when I really figured out the compliance portions of my business. But in that, I was like, man, what else can we do here with our money? And so I was able to kind of fix a lot of other stuff in our business, like how we were buying things, our overtime, just a ton of myriad of different little levers that I pulled. And I went from 4% profit to 24% profit in a year. And then I figured out everything with the IRS, and was able to get on a payment plan with them. And then I just started helping others because, I had friends in the industry and in adjacent industries that were like, okay, last year you could barely buy food. Now you're
Mm,
going to the Bahamas. What changed? Tell us your secrets. And so then I just started helping friends for fun. And in 2021, when I left my abusive relationship, I left behind that business and I went full time into fractional CFO work. And so I've been doing it full time since September of 2021. So it's almost a little anniversary for me, for full time in this business. And I love it. I love helping business owners to make more money and then to go to the next level and invest and have their money make money for them and really create amazing impact in the world because you can't give away what you don't have. So I like
right.
helping them have a lot so they can give away a lot.
Wow. I love how it could have went the complete opposite direction. You
Oh
had a
yeah.
tragic situation and you're like, I don't want to be anywhere around that money side again because I had such a bad experience. Instead, you took it as a way to help. Like I've learned from this, and now
Hmm.
I want to provide something where people can trust someone because I don't want people to get taken advantage of like I got taken advantage of.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I've been through a lot in my life. And so it's like you have the choice to have the bad things that happen to you be negatives, or you can turn them into assets. And so I've really tried to turn all like the poo into assets and ways to help others and empower others that, hey, if I can, figure out the IRS and then make my business more profitable, if I can, you know, leave abuse and then become a single mom and thrive, then you can too. Just to be an inspiration and a hope to others that wherever you are doesn't have to be where you stay.
Yeah, I really want the audience to take that home, for lack of a better word, with them because it's all about how bad things are going to happen in life. They're inevitable. Something's going to happen. No one gets through this life unscathed without anything, right?
Hmm.
So it's all in how you react to those things that happen and about how things can turn out for you. Because you can,
Yeah.
like you said, you can continue to wallow in woe is me. I'm a victim. I will always be a victim. And you will always be a victim if
Mhm.
that's your mentality. Otherwise, you can take it and turn it on its head and say, "I'm going to use this bad experience to do good." Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because bad things do happen. And speaking of faith, like my faith has really helped me get through and knowing that um whatever I'm going through will be used for good. There's a song called Something Better.
Mm.
And it's like, I know that no matter how hard this is, you're going to turn it into something better. And in my whole life, that's always been true. And so now I know that no matter what I'm going through, that will be true because it always has. So why would it change now? It's not going to.
Yeah, there's so much power in having that trust. That's that faith, right? That's
Hmm.
really the definition of faith is
Yeah.
in just knowing that it is what God says it is.
Hmm.
So powerful. I want to kind of start diving into your expertise a little bit now. So we ask a secret question on this podcast every
Okay.
time, and we use it as one of our clips. So I want to know from you what is the secret to effective cash flow.
The secret to effective cash flow is actually paying attention. I would think it's planning, right? It's budgeting. It's like everything else, you need to create a plan and then you need to work the plan. And I think the creation of the plan is difficult for a lot of people, but then the implementation of the plan is even harder because a lot of times we're very emotional and humans are actually super emotional buyers. And we just do what's called bank balance accounting, where we're like, "Ooh, I have $10,000. I can totally do that." And next thing we know, we have $0 in our bill and we have bills due. And then we're
Mhm.
like, "Oh no." So we really, if we're gonna cash flow plan, I have a document that it's a huge spreadsheet because I love spreadsheets. And you put in your bank balance, and then we have all of your bills, and it's weekly. So it has the bills that are due this week, next week, so on and so forth for the rest of the year. When you put in your bank balance, it does all the math for you and it tells you where problems are going to happen. So you can put in money as it happens, you can put in different things that happen. So we can really cash flow plan and then we can implement that plan. But it's really the implementation that matters, right? Because we can know when stuff is happening. But if you go out and spend, $10,000 on whatever, then there's nothing we can do about it. Then we have to figure it out.
Yeah,
And yeah.
I imagine in construction businesses, there's a lot of big purchases that could be made, and anytime they get a little flush with cash, they're like, "Oh, let's go make some big purchases. Let's go buy this dump truck," right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. Or people will look at their P&L, their profit and loss statement, and they're like, "Well, this says that I made $100,000. Where'd all that money go?
Mm,
Where's my money?" It's like, well, yeah, but your profit and loss statement, if you say you bought that dump truck and you paid 5 grand a month for it, principal on that loan, that never hits your profit and loss statement.
mhm.
According to the IRS, that is profit. You didn't think they gave you that depreciation for free, do you? No. No, there's two sides to every coin, and the IRS gets theirs one way or the other, and that's where that comes in. And so it's you have to look at profitability and cash flow separately because they are similar but independent
Mm.
items. And so some things affect both, like pricing affects your cash flow and your profitability. There are certain stuff that just affects your cash flow, like your accounts receivable, how quickly you're getting paid only affects your cash flow. It doesn't affect your profitability. So we have to look at them separate, but intertwined.
Nice. Um, a question.
Mhm.
So a lot of construction business owners in general will get into a business just because they're good at something, like building a
Yeah.
house or this or that, and they don't even pay any mind to um, oh, I've got to have a budget. I have to forecast my business. A lot of like at the very beginning, hopefully eventually they come around or they hire someone like you, right? So a lot of them may have the idea, oh, I'm just going to go bring an in-house accountant or not accountant, but bookkeeper, et cetera. Tell them why what you different as a fractional CFO is different from what they might think they'd want to do.
Okay. So yeah, so I get this all the time because people were like, "Well, are you just a bookkeeper?" I am a certified QuickBooks bookkeeper, and I do have a full time bookkeeper on staff. So if somebody contracts me and their bookkeeper sucks and we need to fire them, which happens a lot, I got them covered. But bookkeeping is all about data entry, really.
Hmm.
That's in essence what it is. And it's does the data in your books, your QuickBooks or whatever software you're using match your bank? And, it is all of that matching. That's reconciliation. So it's really just data entry. And then accounting, so like your CPA, that's more like tax compliance. Okay, are we filling out our taxes at the end of the year? They just take that data and fill out some forms. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you'll get a CPA that does some tax planning and some proactive stuff. But really, everything most CPAs and accountants and bookkeepers do is very backward looking. What happened,
Mm.
but it's not about what is going to happen in the future. So, what I do is very forward looking. Okay, this is what we're doing tomorrow. This is the goals we have. This is how we're going to hit it. This is how we're going to forecast. Okay, if we want to hit $1 million, what do we have to spend to hit that? If we want to go to this next level, what do we have to do? And so everything I'm doing is forward looking and analysis of the past. And what does that mean for us in terms of looking at the future? So it's really planning ahead versus just looking behind.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I
Mhm.
believe I could sum that up in a quick little sound bite here. You help them not just keep more of the money they're making. You help them make more money, right?
Oh, yeah,
Which a
100.
bookkeeper and an accountant wouldn't
Do not.
necessarily do that.
No. I mean, if you're lucky, but generally speaking,
Yeah,
no. And all I do is focused on helping you keep more of the money you make and make more money in the future.
sounds like a win to me.
I mean, I enjoy it. It's pretty fun for my clients who are
Yeah.
making a lot more money, and then they're like, at the end of the year, like, "How do I spend all this?" I'm like, "Now it's
Nice,
time to go
nice.
buy stuff and get that depreciation."
That's right. That's right. I want to dive into your business just a little
Mhm.
bit. So, what were some of the key strategies that you implemented from to transition from struggling, as you had mentioned before, to now where you are as a seven figure business?
So One of the big things was looking at how I'm buying my products. So a lot of people look at their suppliers as like Walmart, where you go in, it's a price and you pay it or you don't. But it's really more like the swap meet where we can negotiate. And most distributors have a margin and you can negotiate. So the more you buy, the better pricing you can get. You can go to different places. But we're really looking at your product and saying, okay, how can I buy this better?
Mm,
That was number one. Number two was my payroll management. So many times people get caught up in the day to day, and their overtime bassoons. Overtime is a profitability killer. Your employees love overtime because they get crazy money. It's bad for you though. It's bad all the time. Don't do it if you can help it. And so then sometimes people are like, oh, we have to stay on schedule. It's like, okay, but can you bring in, say, hypothetically, you have trained workers for, like, say, 80% of the work, but then you have this 20% over here that you don't need trained workers for? Okay, can we have our main people do the 80%, bring in some temps for the 20%? It's cheaper to bring in temps for the work that is unskilled versus paying your skilled labor time and a half. So
yeah.
there's a lot of fun stuff you can do there. I would say those two things were paramount, but then also looking at how I'm marketing and what am I marketing. So I switched all my marketing to my most profitable offerings so that the stuff I'm spending money to get clients on is actually the stuff that's making me the most instead of spending money marketing stuff that was lower margin and like filler work.
Wow. Now you're speaking my language, the marketing side. Uh, let's talk about some mistakes that entrepreneurs might make. What common mistakes do entrepreneurs make after the sale, and how can they avoid them?
um Scope creep, so
Mm,
always saying yes to the client because sometimes we're afraid to lose the client, and this I see across all industries, scope creep, you know? Um, so I deal with this because, people will ask me questions or I'll give more and more, and I love my clients, I wanna say yes, and then sometimes I have to take
mhm,
a step back and be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, now we're to another level. We
mm.
need to reevaluate." So really being careful of scope creep. You want to say yes, you want to give that great customer service, but you don't want to get taken advantage of.
Yeah, you have to know where the line is, where your boundaries are. Um, I am like you as well. I like to give. So that's one of the hardest things for me. Is like I would hop on a call with me real quick. Oh, yeah, I
Mhm.
normally I charge X amount for this, but I'm going to give it to you for free because I just want to help you. But you got gotta limit the amount of times that you do that because obviously you're not going to make much money if you give away everything for free.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? It's hard to go back to a client and say, you know what, this is actually outside of my scope.
Mhm.
Or, hey, I would totally want to do that to you or for you, but that's actually going to be a change order. And so just really being okay with having those uncomfortable conversations, because I know you always want to say yes, but that just eats into your profitability. Now, I'm not saying go too crazy on it, but there's a limit, and just kind of knowing where you feel comfortable, because if you're starting to feel like you're being if you feel a little taken advantage of, then that's when you need to say, okay, this is the next level. Or if it's outside of like a few little tolerances. But that's where having really good contracts comes in. Contracts go both ways. People
Mhm.
are like so afraid of contracts. I'm like, no, a contract protects both parties.
Mhm.
And if a contract only protects one side, it's actually not enforceable. So if a contract is totally is meant to hurt you, then it can't be enforced against you. Generally speaking, I'm not a lawyer, so this is legal advice. But
Put the
from
disclaimer in
my
there.
experience, how about that? Um, so people always get afraid, but I think that contracts actually set you free, just the same as I think budgets set you free, because they create clarity in what you're doing. They create clarity with you and your client, or you and your supplier, whomever you have that contract with. And the more clarity we can create, then the better interactions we can have. Because I think issues come with miscommunication, not because anybody's really generally trying to hurt each other. Though I did have that one experience, but So if we can create clarity, we get rid of miscommunication, and then we can work better as teams.
Yeah. I just had a recent podcast on that was all about over communicating. He doesn't believe that there's any over communicating because it brings so much clarity. The other
Yeah.
thing I want to mention about what you just said is kind of go back to what we talked about before is the relationship piece and especially if you're doing B2B, right? There should be a mutual respect. They shouldn't want to take advantage of you because they shouldn't want to be taken advantage of,
Mhm.
right? In the same way. So there should be that mutual respect and that understanding. We're both in business to make money, right? So you wouldn't give away your stuff to me for free for free. Why would I do the same thing for you, right?
Yeah. Well, you would think. And I think that, it just comes down to sometimes people get afraid. They don't, people are so confrontational averse, but it not doesn't have to be a confrontation. It can just be a conversation. And that comes down to more what you're feeling within yourself and how you're communicating that. And so just having that clarity really helps.
Nice. Well, let's dive into your faith now a little bit.
Mhm.
Can you share a specific moment or experience in your life that profoundly strengthened your faith?
Oh gosh. So, okay, so this is going to be interesting. So, COVID. So, most people, COVID was like the worst thing that ever happened to them, but I always say that COVID actually saved my life. Um, because a couple years before COVID, I knew I needed to get out of my abusive relationship because it was starting to affect my children. It was really affecting me, and I just couldn't continue. But at the same token, when I decided this, I had credit that was worse than you could imagine. I
Mm,
was super in debt. I had a successful business, but technically it was legally only my now ex-husband's. It wasn't mine.
mm,
So I knew that was our only income. So I knew he would cut me off the minute I filed. And I was deathly afraid of him. So I was like, oh my gosh. And leaving is the most dangerous part. So I was like, what if he does do what I think he could do? And I had all these things. And then when COVID happened, everything was shut down. And then I was like, "Oh man, this is even worse," because now I can't even send my kids to school. But in that, there was like the PUA and the PPP, there was all this
mm,
government money. And so because of that, I was able to get help in paying my bills. And even when he did cut me off, which he did, exactly like I thought he was going to, I was okay. So, and I was able to feed my kids and get gas and all these things. So actually COVID ended up saving my life in the sense that it gave me the ability to leave that domestically violent situation and move on and do all the things I'm doing now.
Well, it sounds like full circle again to something we
Mhm.
previously talked about. How something bad can happen, but there can always be good that God has plans for good out of it, and there is an
Mhm.
example. So
Yeah. Yeah, and it was an interesting time, but I just kept my faith and I kept praying um and I know that it has with the things that I've been able to help people and just sharing my story is has helped other women, and I've been helping a lot of women to get out of situations similar. So just helping people makes it not so bad.
yeah. And I don't think there would have been ever a time in your thought process prior to COVID when you're thinking, how am I going to get out of this? That you thought, oh, a major illness is going to sweep the world. And that's but that was God's plan, not your plan.
The government is gonna give me $600 a week, and I'll be able to eke by, It's totally gonna happen. No, I mean, that yeah, and then when it did, I was like, "What?
Mm,
This," and it was just enough. Like,
mm.
it was always, like, just enough, and then I was able to kinda, like, get a little bit from the settlement and all that stuff, and then that springboarded into, "Okay, now I'm gonna go full time into what I love," and then went on from there, so, yeah.
One of the things that I like to like is kind of my tagline, and I say it at the end of every podcast is keep moving forward, and that's exactly what you did. No matter what was going on, you just kept moving forward,
Mhm.
and I think that's what God wants us to do, right? Not like there's going to be things that happen, but we just need to keep moving forward and trusting Him.
Yeah. I feel sometimes like I'm like have you seen the movie Wonder Woman?
I
When
have,
she when she's, like, running across that field and she's like So I feel all the time, I'm like, "Yeah, shoot those bullets at me, 'cause I got my little bands, right?" And it's like, "Ooh, ooh."
Nice, nice. I'll make sure in our reel that we have a reel of Wonder Woman right there. Nice, nice. Is there a particular scripture or Bible verse that has been especially meaningful for you during any difficult times?
So Hebrews is my favorite book, for many reasons, but actually, this is an interesting tidbit. I don't know if you know. Anthropologically speaking, they've done a lot of research because they technically don't know who wrote
Mm.
Hebrews. But thought process right now is that it might have been Priscilla.
Oh.
And the reason that we don't know who wrote it is because it was a woman, and so they took it out because they didn't want a woman to have written a book of
Mm.
the Bible, and that's the whole reason why we don't technically know who wrote it. And there's a lot of thought process there, so if you do some research, you can look it up. So I've always liked Hebrews, and then when I read that, I was like, "Oh, that's even more like to my soul that it could have possibly been a very faithful woman who wrote it." Um, and so I love all the whole book of Hebrews.
Nice. Nice. I am going to do that research because you have got me intrigued for sure.
Yeah.
Because that is very very interesting. Thank you, Sheena, for such a great interview. You're one of my favorite guests. I love
Oh,
people
thank
with
you.
bubbly personalities. And, you're a Broncos fan, so that's good too.
I just love football, but I
Yeah.
love the Broncos the most.
Do you have any college football teams that you like?
I mean, the CU Buffs.
Oh, Dion.
Yeah, so I went to University of Washington, and they have been very, very good lately. But
Mhm.
when I went there, they played the Apple Cup to see if they were the worst team in college football. So,
Mm.
yeah, it was really a thing for me back
Yeah, I like Dion's personality. I grew up in Florida,
then. Okay.
so he was a Florida State guy, right?
Mhm,
He was he's just a little bit older than me actually,
mhm.
and
Okay.
he actually when I was in high school when I think he had just started his pro career, he had come to our high school, and I don't think he even gave a speech. He just knew somebody as a high school and was just
Mhm.
walking around with them. So it's kind
Actually,
of
you
cool.
can't really see it, but that is a Deion Sanders
Ah,
helmet.
oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice, nice.
We're football people here, so
I'm a Clemson fan myself because I'm here in South Carolina.
that's
I
not.
think I think Dabo's got. I love that Dabo's standing firm, but he might need to make some changes.
I mean,
So
can always make changes for the better.
that's right. That's right. I asked one. Well, first off, we talked about sharing some links at the very beginning.
Mhm.
So where can we send people to find out more about you and what you do?
So my website is yourpocketcfo.com. Because you can't tell from this, but I'm really short. So I'm so tiny you'll fit in your pocket. And um, and then everywhere on social media, I'm your pocket CFO. So I just snatched all that up. Make it simple.
Nice. So we'll put the link to that.
Mhm,
We'll put the links to whatever socials. We'll talk about what socials you'd like most to share. We'll
mhm.
put the links to your socials below as well. I ask one last question
Okay.
at the end of this interview because I always feel like a guest sometimes leaves with things that they wanted to say that didn't get said. Um, and I'm all about sharing as much value as we possibly can. So, do you have any parting words of wisdom for any of the entrepreneurs out there?
So I would say just wherever you are is just a place to start. So
Mm,
don't feel sad or shameful about wherever you are in your situation because wherever you are, I've totally been there or worse. And you don't have to stay there. I like what you have back there. It says you can have results or excuses, not both. One of my mentors, she says you can have results or you can have reasons.
mm,
But I think it's so easy to sit in the reasons,
mhm.
but you have to break free of that and say, okay, this might be my starting point, but that doesn't have to be my ending point because I'm going to choose something different and I'm going to go to the next level and I'm going to put aside my own feelings and my own personal, maybe feelings of inadequacy and just put aside my own ego and ask for help and get to that next level.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much. And until next time, entrepreneurs, keep moving forward.
Thanks.